Steph, come here. Come and record the drift ad.
Today's episode is brought to you by Drift Outfitters in downtown Toronto, Ontario. Drift Outfitters is your source for all things fly fishing. From waders and boots to thread and feathers, Drift has it all. They're now open for in-store shopping, but with the COVID times twist. Along with mandatory masks, a few other things have changed. Check in on their website for the latest updates and policies. Curbside pickup for your online and phone orders is still a great way to get all the gear you need. And they're shipping for free across Canada on orders over $100. Visit driftoutfitters.com to learn more.
Hello, welcome to another episode of So Fly. It's October, and we are recording once again. My name is Mitch, and we've got Aldo.
Hey.
And we've got Yelma.
Hello, everyone.
And we've got a special guest on the show today we're super excited to be chatting with. Been planning this one out for a little while now. We've got Eeland Stribling on the show. Eeland is a fly angler born and raised in Denver, Colorado. He's a wildlife biology graduate from CSU, and since 2018, a stand-up comedian. He's traveled around the country fly fishing for the last 6 years and has fished both U.S. coasts. He's also fished in South Africa, which is cool. I want to chat about that. New Zealand, two amazing fly fishing destinations. And on Instagram, he's known as Black Steve Irwin. He's worked with Brown Folks Fishing, a page dedicated to featuring BIPOC anglers, building community, and reimagining conservation. We're so excited to be chatting today with you, Eeland. Eeland, how's it going?
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me. It's going well. It's cold here, so
Yeah, it's definitely getting colder here too. Fall's coming.
Where is here for you?
Here, Denver, Colorado.
Oh, right.
Yeah. My house here in Denver, where I was born and raised, and we had a couple of days of warm weather, and then we had a snowstorm back in like September, beginning of September.
Jeez.
And then it was hot as hell for a really long period of time, and then now it's getting a little nipply. So
yeah, right on. Denver, Colorado, man. There's some good fishing out there, eh?
yeah, there's some, we're not going to spoil it, but yeah, there's some places to get out to. If you're listening and you don't live in Denver, it's not that great, but if you're in Denver, you know what's up. So
yeah, exactly. Always the case. Yeah, it's a good way to frame it up. So are you fishing like recently? Have you been out recently? How's it going over there fishing wise?
Yeah, I was out fishing yesterday. The fishing is this time of year, as soon as people start getting cold and don't want to fish, it gets really, really productive and good. So the last 2 or 3 weeks have been, just really, really, really fun. So
right on.
Yeah.
What are you fishing for? What did you fish for yesterday?
Yesterday I was fishing for some big pissed off browns, but quite a few different species were also hungry as well, which I think makes the fall so fun, is that there are, browns that when they're not spawning, they're eating and they're being pretty aggressive, but there was a pretty good size cutty yesterday that I got and a very, very pretty rainbow. So, and even some suckers were taking stuff on the swings. I mean, not suckers, some whitefish were taking some stuff on the swing. So it was a fun day.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good day, man. Oh my God.
Yeah, it was spoiled.
Yeah, man. Well, we're out in Toronto. It's getting colder in our neck of the woods too. Up here in Canada, fall has hit and the fishing slowed right down. I mean, now it's Great Lake steelhead's fishing for us, but it's beginning, like typically this time of year, it's kind of slow because Great Lake steelhead fishing's kind of slow anyway, especially even if you're good at it, which we're new to the whole thing. But it's that kind of fishing for us right now. So trout sounds amazing. Cutties, oh my God.
And does it get busy like in the fall? Like do people who haven't fished all year come out and try to catch some steelies?
Yeah, it's like not just fly anglers at that point, right? Because you'll get like center pin, you'll get gear guys, and everybody's out on the river trying to catch a steelhead. And right now we got salmon too, because salmon also run up the river. So yeah, it's a bit of a shit show. Like people, but,
I bet.
The fall definitely is busier than the spring in the sense that the spring doesn't have the salmon along with it. So
right.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a pretty time on the river. I mean, leaves are changing.
Right. Yeah.
So it's nice to be on the river and
Absolutely.
but like Mitch was saying, our resident trout season's closed. So jealous of you for sure.
Yeah, and that's something
Yeah.
I'm also kind of interested in is that you guys have a season where you can't fish for trout, right?
Yep.
Oh yeah, like
Yeah.
pretty much
Most of
like,
a big
most
chunk
of
of
the
the
year,
year.
year.
Yeah.
Like our season opens late April and goes to the end of September. But really, like once June for us anyway in Southern Ontario and Toronto, like or the GTA, it starts getting real hot real quick. So
Yeah.
and like I mean really hot. So for us, it's like really you've got a very short window where you can actually safely and like ethically fish for
Yeah.
trout because the water gets so hot, you know. So
Damn,
and we
that's
don't
crazy.
yeah. So we really have like a week in April, the month of May, and depending how June goes, kind of just June.
It's true.
And,
I never thought of it that way.
And
but it's
then
true,
and
yeah.
then if September's hot, we don't fish for them
Yeah,
at
we
all.
don't
Yeah.
fish,
Yeah.
And then it closes.
Yeah. At the end of September. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few rivers here that don't freeze over during the winter.
Mhm.
And so you can theoretically you can fish 365 days a year in Colorado.
That's
And
so
amazing.
wild.
there's no off season, there's no during, spawning times during the spring and the fall, they say, don't step on the reds.
Yeah.
But that's about it. Like that's the only
Mhm.
and that's not even like a law or that's just like, don't be an asshole.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can
Right.
fish. So imagine, and I actually wish our state government would have like a season to just leave the water and the fish alone, but
Yeah.
it's too much of a business here, so that'll never
Right.
happen. Yeah.
That's true.
But are people ethically good on the river?
For the most part, you got a lot of people that because the Colorado, not just the fishing, but just kind of the destination,
Yeah.
is a big place for people to come visit. So people from Texas, Florida, we get a lot of people from California that just come and they spend their, fall here or their summer here or whatever they do.
Yeah.
And there's been times where you have to tell somebody like, hey, you shouldn't be doing that, or that's not how you fish, or this is catch and release only, or you can't, but for the most part, I think people are pretty
Yeah.
understanding. So
Pretty on top of
That's
it.
cool.
Yeah. It's good to see.
Well,
That's good.
I got the pleasure to fish Colorado 3 years ago. I did the South Platte, the Frying Pan, and the Roaring Fork, and it's in the spring,
Mhm.
pre runoff, and that was pretty cool. I really like the South Platte. I didn't really I had in my head to go to the Frying Pan, obviously, so much written about it.
Yeah.
But then, but my first stop after driving across, I guess it would have been Kansas, was the South Platte, and I was just
Mhm.
11 Mile Canyon. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
That was my friend went there last weekend. She said she had a lot of fun. So
Yeah,
It's rad. It's rad.
beautiful.
Well, why don't we jump right back to the beginning of this whole thing and just jump into how you got into fly fishing? Like, how did you even decide to get into the whole fly fishing thing?
yeah, so I grew up fishing here in Denver with my grandfather, not my gramps. Those are two separate people. So I grew up fishing with my grandfather, my papa, and it was one of those things where we would wake up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and go to the store and buy worms, and then just drive to the lake, sit on the shore, and then just sit all day. And I was like, I hate this. Like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And so that was in middle school and high school. So I never fished. I never really did much. And then it was the first semester of my sophomore year in college. I was dating this girl, and she had heard about a fly tying class. It was a Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Come learn how to tie flies. And so I went, and I was like, this is the dopest shit I've ever done. And so for 2 hours, all we did was tie flies for 3 weekends in a row. And so I first started tying flies, and then on our graduation or whatever, on our last day, we went out to this little pond and we're chasing carp.
Nice.
And just the idea of seeing these, and it was a private lake, so the carp were massive, but it was private ponds. But the idea of seeing these carp coming up and tailing and then trying to put our flies, it was just it gave me a rush of anger, happiness, anxiety, adrenaline,
Yeah.
confusion, and the ability to learn of oh, I have to go back and I want to go back and get that fish, or I want to figure out how to. So it was a puzzle. And then ever since then, I went and bought a $100 combo setup, with it had the line, the reel, and a bunch of flies on it.
Yeah.
And then ever since then, I was just yeah, I can't not do this. So
Yeah, man, that's great. I love that
That
you
was
got
it,
into
yeah.
it from tying. Like that's such a cool entry.
Mhm.
Into
Yeah.
yeah, and the relationship didn't work out, but I was happy about that. So now I just have fishing.
Right
Yeah,
on.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Did you catch a carp that day? Like, were you able to actually stick a carp?
No, they would like come and look at it and then
Yeah.
turn, and I think that was for a fish to be as dumb as they are very smart and
Oh, yeah.
kind of mean. So yeah, that day, and I've chased for carp since then, and I love it almost pretty much. I love it the same as much as trout fishing.
Yeah, I know that's
Yeah, I
what
love
people are.
carp.
Everybody's
I'm
saying
hearing
that.
Yeah. Sorry, Mitch. Sorry, I was
No.
just gonna say. A couple guys that we had on the podcast were pushing for carp.
Yeah.
The thing, and we haven't tried. I mean, I haven't done it. I think Aldo has. I don't know if Mitch has, but
No, I haven't. I don't know shit about fuck when it comes to carp.
Yeah, I enjoy them. They're a little bit more, I would say, tricky, but I do enjoy carp.
Yeah,
that's
they're
right.
pretty-
I mean, the Grand just up the street from us has it. We should just go one time.
Yeah, they're pretty wild. I don't know. I need to get into carp fishing a little bit more. But it's cool that 100%. You can see how that would be an exciting first fishing moment because those things are giant. You know, they're hard to catch. Like they're cool looking in the water.
Yeah.
But what was it about fly tying that piqued your interest at first? Like you just saw, it, you're like, that looks like something cool. Or had you seen it before, or was it just like on a whim kind of thing?
No, yeah, it was my first time seeing that, and I think I love creative people. So I wouldn't say I'm like an artsy creative person, but I love that someone can look at an insect or look at a hook and say, like, oh, I can turn this into, whatever, like whatever. And so I think it's like, once again, like a puzzle piece of like people trying out stuff, and I love watching people tie and styles and intricacies and the nuances of it. So it's just something to admire. And I think I'm not saying it's like super artsy, but I do think it's like an element of everyone has like their own style, the way they tie. And I just think it's dope. It's like peaceful. So
Totally. Yeah. There's definite creativity to the whole thing. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you remember your first fish on the fly? Was it a carp?
My first fish on the fly was a grayling.
Whoa, nice.
Fuck
That's
off.
rad.
Yeah, it was like it was like a 6 or 7 inch grayling, but my gramps took me, and he's been fly fishing for a really long time. I didn't know that until I started fly fishing, but he took me up to this place here in Colorado, and we went. We were using like tiny little bugs, and that was my first fish on the fly, and I got to see the dorsal fin and
that's cool.
how pretty the fish was. So.
No, that's sweet, man. Grayling,
Yeah.
that's a fish we talk about a lot because we've always wanted to catch one. None of us have gotten one. They're so cool looking, like.
Yeah,
That's the
Such a
first
special
though.
fish.
That's the
pretty
first
badass.
though.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's a great first fish. I love that.
Everybody
Yeah.
says bass or like walleye or but to have grayling as your first, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I'm a little jealous because whatever.
Well,
He
Yelma, you're-
really
it
wants
was-
it. We almost got in his head to catch a grayling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, do it. Yeah. If I can ever make a trip to Alaska, I definitely, that's like the fish I want the most is a grayling, one of those giant ones.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if the borders open up before your chance to go to Alaska, come to Northwest Territories, Labrador,
Cool.
hang with us, and we'll go.
Some good
Hell
fishing
yeah.
up there, right? Yelma, what was your first fish on the fly rod? Was it a bass? Was it a smallmouth bass?
First fish? No, it was a rainbow.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's right. At the ponds.
Nice.
In the ponds, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah.
I was very dismissive. He was like in the ponds.
I know. Yeah. I know.
Like a stock pond.
Yeah, stock one.
Hey, those pond fish are great, man. Never knock
First
those guys.
wild fish probably was the bass on the Grand Mitch with you.
Oh, nice. Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I could dig that, but grayling's a great first fish. I love that.
Yeah. I got lucky. So now,
Yeah, man. So it sounds like you've always kind of had a passion for the outdoors. I mean, you're a wildlife biology grad. Like, is that why you got into studying that? Was it just because you grew up fishing and all that kind of stuff?
No, I've always loved animals and nature. My name Eeland actually means largest African antelope.
Oh, cool.
So my gramps named me. So he was a wildlife biologist, and he named me. So I grew up going outside and trying to find worms and watching birds and playing in the dirt and watching Steve Irwin and Jeff Corwin and PBS documentaries and always
Right.
nature and wildlife. And so I've always had like a desire, like a lust for the outdoors. And then when I went to school, I wanted to be a veterinarian. I was like, oh, I'm going to save all the animals. But it just turned out that I would be working on a farm probably. And I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So then I switched to, natural resource wildlife bio. And I was like, oh yeah, this is more like it. So yeah. And then that kind of, I transitioned from being like pre-vet to wildlife bio. And the same time I started tying flies. So it just kind of like every time I would go out and fish would also be like a study session, or every time I would, look up something for my vertebrates class, I would learn something new about fish. So it kind of just went hand in hand, and I was able to piggyback off of either one of them, both of them. So
yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, 100%. And you find like now, like when you fish, like it's kind of influenced a little bit by your knowledge of that stuff. Like when you're on the river, you're not just fishing, but you're also, thinking about the bugs and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, sometimes I'll go fish and I'll take a nap, and then I'll wake up and I'll go look at plants, or I'll try to ID plants or try to ID birds and look at what insects are in the water, not to match the hatch, because I don't 100% believe that, but just to just out of pure curiosity and fun. So and I still, even though I'm not in school anymore, I still do love learning and kind of keeping that, always learning something new and progressing. So yeah,
fly fishing is great like that. I love that you can just be out in nature.
Yeah.
Did you pursue that field after university, or did the comedy career then come after that?
No, yeah, I switched from pre-vet to wildlife bio, and then in the same year I started fly fishing. And then I started comedy in 2018. And that was just on a hunch, on a random thing. So
just kind of felt like getting into comedy, and you're like, hey, I'm gonna go do a set.
Yeah, I've always loved comedians. I remember watching Cat Williams' The Pimp Chronicles comedy special. And even though I didn't know everything he was talking about when I was 12 or 11 or 10 or whatever age I was, I remember watching it being like, yo, this dude is making like a stadium full of people laugh at just whatever he wants to talk. Like, he can go up there and say whatever he wants. And so I've always loved public speaking, and I've always been in roles where I had to communicate with big groups. And then I've always written stupid jokes, and I have my old notebook. And so I was like, if I go up and I do it and no one laughs, I'm going to be the same person tomorrow. And if somebody laughs, I'll be like, I did stand-up comedy. So that was literally my thought process. And then, that was it. That was all I had to think about. And then I felt nauseous all day before I went.
Yeah, that's wild. You just you just went and did a set. You had your 5-minute thing written down. You just went and performed it, like, whatever, I'm going to do this thing.
Yep. I went to a show the night before and just watched. And then the next night I was like, all right. And once, I signed my name up on the list, and I was like, well, now I can't leave. Like, they'll be like, Eeland Stribling, and then no one shows up. And I'm like, and I'm also competitive. So I saw how funny people were being, and I was like, I wonder if I can be that funny. And I'll be honest, the first time I went up, I did really, really well. Like, I crushed it. Nice. And then people were coming up to me after and were like, oh, how long you been doing comedy? How long you been doing comedy? And I was like, oh, that was my first time. They're like, get out of here, man. That's crazy. Keep coming back.
Yeah.
And then the next 2 months, I don't know if I got a single laugh every time I went up on stage. So I was like, well, this is fun. This is hard. It's a lot hard. I just got lucky.
Yeah.
So,
I think that was Chappelle's story too. Chappelle was saying his first time he was funny, and then a couple of times afterwards it was hard. Funny because and you say presentation skills and public speaking. It's okay, I'm not funny at all, but I was having trouble presenting to, because I'm in advertising. I was having trouble presenting to clients. Not having trouble, but having trouble speaking with conviction. You know what I mean? And Mitch sends me this article. He's like, take a comedy stand-up class, because the whole correlation with selling your jokes and selling an idea to a client are one and the same. Yeah. So I went and I did that, and I mean, they laughed, but I think they laughed because I was they felt sorry for me for
You're
something.
Funny, man. Don't
I don't think it was that funny.
You're funny, man. I saw the tape.
Let me tell you what. If you're pursuing a career in comedy, that is probably one of the hardest things, if not the hardest thing to do I've ever done, and it's incredible, to be honest. Like,
no, it's not that big a deal. It's no, that's. And do you think you like feel better, or you felt better after taking the class? Like,
yeah, it changed my career.
Like presenting and just like talking in front of people. Yeah. And that's, people always ask me, they're like, how'd you get into it, or how do you get into it? And I'm like, the hardest part is literally like just going up there and like just knowing what you want to talk about. Because I think a lot of people, they have stage fright, or they'll be like, oh, I'm funny, in a situation, or I'm funny talking to my friends, but when I get up stage, I get nervous. Like, if you can just get on stage and realize you can survive and no one's gonna kill you,
Exactly.
You'll be all right. So anyone can do it. So don't be afraid. It's fun, and it can be difficult, but it is super easy, and it's a lot of fun.
And you stuck it out. Like for 2 months, you said you didn't get laughs, but you just kept doing it.
Yeah, and then that was probably the most fun part, to be like, well, why did I do well the first time?
Yeah.
And why is every time now sucking? So then it became like all right. And then once I started getting better, it was like a huge learning curve of like nothing. And then, I learned a lot, and then I kind of stopped, and I learned a lot. So it's just trying to figure out not even what people want to hear, but what did I want to talk about, and what was funny. So.
Yeah, it's interesting correlation to the fly fishing world too, because I feel like fly fishing is kind of like that too. You go out for the first time, fish a pond, or you get a guide and you catch a bunch of fish, and then you keep going out, and it's like, this is brutal. Like, I'm not catching anything, but you stick to it and pays off.
Then you don't catch a fish for 2 months, and you're like, I hate this, but you keep going back, and then one day you catch the fish, and you're like, oh, there's like a small piece that I can figure out, and then you just kind of put it together until you're an Instagram thought,
Exactly.
So you can figure it out. So
100%. So have you traveled?
That's really what we're trying for, actually.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, none of us need jobs. All you have to do is just be, hot on Instagram, and we're Gucci.
I'm just Euro niffing and doing squats, just trying to get.
That's all you got to do.
That's all it is, man. It's funny you bring that up, because it's so true, eh? Like this whole like social media fly fishing culture like world. I don't know. Like, what do you think culturally fly fishing is like changing for the better? Or do you think it's like going down a weird path?
Yeah, I hate this, and some people are probably not gonna like this, but I don't like the fly fishing community of the world, just because of the systematic stuff. Being a bunch of old white guys.
Yeah. Like
whatever. Like it's. I mean, whatever. Like the world's changing, but then you have this aspect of it's like this cool, it's like supposed to be like this cool bro-y like super hard ancient thing, and it's like, dog, like, for one, like when people say fly fishing is a sport, I'm like, well, it's not. Like I've seen, it's not a sport. It can be dangerous.
Not for the fish. They don't think it's a sport.
Yeah, it can be dangerous, but I don't think, like, no one's guarding you on defense. Like, no one's
totally
is stopping you from like fishing. So I don't think fishing is fly fishing is a sport. I think like those bass fishermen that go out and like compete. Yeah. Like that's a skill. But I think fly fishing, like waving a stick with the little parachute atoms, is not a challenge. So the fly fishing community is just, it so wants to be cool, and there's people that want to be cool in it, but I think that makes it uncool. And I've met some really dope people who are not, Instagram influencers in the fishing community. And then I've met people who are, they're like signing autographs and taking pictures, and I'm like, I know 10 people that can outfish you. I know like, I know it's just, you should be having fun with it. And if you're not having fun with it, then, and if you are having fun and you make $1 million from Instagram, good on you, dope shit. But it shouldn't be like this ultra elite cool thing. It should be like, if you enjoy it, go out and have fun.
Well, it's almost like you've got fly fishing, and then you've got like Instagram fishing branding. Like they're almost two different things, you know, where it's like either your hobby's fly fishing or your hobby is like building brands around the outdoors or something.
Yeah.
Because it's right. Like I just can't believe the amount of content there is around this stuff. And it's just like there's so many, like thousands, maybe millions of people that are, you know, influencers and doing this sort of thing. And it's just like that to me, I've just broken it into my head. It's like, okay, that's like a whole other thing. Like fly fishing is not really that, you know?
Yeah, and then and I agree. I don't think it should be. I mean, once again, those people should exist if they can make money. I don't hate on anyone making money. I think, you know, if I can use promo code Eeland for 20% off of a hat, whatever, cool. But I think you should just do it if you really, really enjoy it with anything in life.
Well, like you said, like it's not every page on Instagram's not. You know, there are some people out there that are legit and that are cool and they're doing a really good
absolutely
thing, right? So
but they can fish. All I care is like if you can fish and you're a good person and you can laugh about shit, then
and not take yourself too seriously.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm in it for like a little bit. There's a lot of, obviously on the internet, there's a lot of dishonesty in the sense that like you try to make your life look better than it is. And fly fishing especially, it's always that, you know, only post the biggest fish, only whatever. I like to think that we try to be honest in the fact that like a lot of times we don't catch fish or sometimes we're not catching biggest fish, but it doesn't really matter because we have fun with each other, and that's what that's why we do what we do.
Yeah.
Where am I going with this? I guess my problem is with fly fishing media currently is everything's gonna be so hardcore.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's so hardcore. I'm like, people who jump out of planes to fight fires in the woods are hardcore. There's nothing hardcore about fly fishing. Like, we go to the drive-through to put food in our face, and then we go fish and tell some jokes. It's fun.
Yeah.
But it's not hardcore.
Yeah.
So it's like, so I think I hope we don't miss that. We're not missing that element of fun in trying to make ourselves. Yeah, you said so like serious.
You said it right, Eeland. Like everyone's trying to make it badass and like look like the coolest thing ever, and it's like, you know, it's not really what fly fishing is about, right?
Yeah, and I feel like when I was in college and I was fishing with people, I mean, we would load up 5 people in a 1999 Jeep Grand Cherokee, and go drive someplace that's cold to fish, and that was just it was just fun. It was we hated it some moments because some of us weren't catching fish or whatever, but it wasn't. We didn't like go out, and that's another thing. People go out, like when they go out to fish, they go out to take pictures instead of going out to fish. And I mean, I'll tell you this month of October has been very, very fishy for me, which it hasn't been in the past couple of years, but it's been very, very fishy, and I've had a lot of fun. And I mean, I probably took a picture of 3 or 4 fish, and I'm not in any of them. I just wanted to take a picture of a fish and be like, damn, that's a pretty fish. And I remember how I caught it. And I don't care about posting it or anything, because I'm like, well, what's that gonna do? Is that gonna make me cooler? No, it's not. So
yeah, totally. It's interesting.
But if you're a fishing photographer, keep doing it, because if you can make money, I support you.
And there is some great content out there, you know, and like it's nice to look at those beautiful fish pictures. But it's true. I mean, the whole social dichotomy, it's a whole other thing.
Yeah. It's not even fishing. That's just a small microcosm of the world. So
yeah. But I think generally, like you think things are kind of going in like a good direction, just from like a like representation and like people accessibility to the fly fishing world. Like, are you seeing more people getting into it, or is it because you hit on it earlier, like it's all old white guys, and it's like, of course, fly fishing's got that idea, right? Because that's where it comes from, and it's like, I think that's going away. But what do you think?
Yeah, and I think that's slowly turning away for a couple of reasons. One, for the civil rights movement that not only the U.S. is in, but the world is in, that people can share stuff from across the world in a moment of seconds. So you can see what's going on in other countries and be like, oh, that same shit is happening here. So I think from social media, it's changing, but also from just I don't know. I'll say it like this. I've been fishing for a little bit of time now, and I had a friend who's another comic who wanted to learn how to fish, and he hit me up and he was like, hey man, I want to learn how to fly fish. And I was like, cool. like I have a bunch of gear, so you don't need to do anything. And he was like, oh no, my neighbor has like 6 rods, a bunch of reels, flies, all this other stuff. And he was like, I'll just get it from him. And then like, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. And he shows up and it's like all vintage. Like he has like not a brand new, but it's like a handmade bamboo rod.
Whoa.
It's like all these old Orvis, like when the Orvis first started making rods, it's like all these old ancient stuff. And that's kind of the hierarchy of how people get into fly fishing and stay into fly fishing. So because he just knew someone in his community had fly fishing gear, he was automatically set up where he didn't have to go spend, you know, $200-$300 to get waders or rods and reels and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where someone like where I grew up in my neighborhood, no one knew what fly fishing was, maybe still don't. And so when they see like, oh, maybe I want to go fly fishing, but then they see, oh, I have to spend, you know, $200, $300 to go fishing. They're like, I'm not wasting that. Totally. I'm not doing that just to learn to see something. So I do think it's kind of and now with social media, you're seeing, you know, brown folks fishing, you're seeing all these badass anglers, Eric and just some of my friends on Instagram who are not, you know, old white guys. And you see some women who are getting out there and crushing fish and you're like, oh yeah, like there's other people who do this. And now I taught all my little cousins to fly fish and they're not super good. They're from like 6 to 11, but they think fly fishing is like a black people hobby. Like they think it's like something black people do because the only person they've ever seen fly fish is me. And so,
that's cool.
So I do think it's changing for the better. And even if some companies are only representing, you know, BIPOC people to show it, I think in the longevity of that, even though that's not really good and positive, I think the longevity of that can make a difference. So a kid doesn't have to think he has to be a doctor or a basketball player or rapper or anything. He can be like, oh, I can be a fishing person and travel the world and fish, which I think is dope.
Yeah, 100%. You know, and it gives you so many. I mean, it's great that anyone should be able to get into fly fishing because it unlocks so many good things in, you know, our lives. I guess that's one good thing about social media is it does kind of connect. Yeah. You know, it puts a lens or it shines a light on all those issues, and no, it's cool though. It's good.
Yeah, and it's lovely that you just said what you just said. I wish that was the case. Obviously, when you and I grew up, it'd be a different story, and the heckling wouldn't have been there. But I mean, that's the thing that you're saying. It's like at least now we can be representative of or be a face of what could possibly be for up and coming, like my nephews and stuff, to see this. Like, oh no, it's a black thing, or it's a human thing to do.
It's just something you want to do. Yeah.
So I mean, at least now we can lead the way. So I'm not mad at the fact that wasn't my reality when I first started. Even when I skateboarded before Lupe Fiasco skateboarded. You know what I mean?
Before he made it cool. Yeah.
Before he made it cool.
Yeah.
I was considered not a specific race because of the choices that I made, which was like annoying. So
yeah, I grew up snowboarding. So I know the exact same where I was like, I was like, no one on this mountain even looks like me.
Yeah.
Right.
That's good. It's good that's changing though, you know? I mean, I think it's important that everybody feels like they can get into it because it's such a great thing, fly fishing.
Yeah, and I think that's what the main majority of what brown folks fishing is. And that's how I met them, was from Instagram.
Yeah.
Whenever I post a fish picture, I always use the hashtag Black Fly Fishing Team. And that's just something that I've done whenever I posted my first fish picture. And I kept posting, and then, you know, the woman who runs it, Tracy, who's a freaking OG, she reached out and was like, hey, like, we're starting this group, they're starting this team, this organization, and here's our goals. And I was like, that's like what I like. Our goals are, you know, to help people of color feel safe in the fishing environment, and also get them into a fishing environment. The whole company is accountable. And I was like, that's what I've been dreaming of since I started fishing. And then it just kind of happened organically like that. And now it's just good group of people, and it's a community, and I think it's only positive. So, and of course we've been trashed a bunch, but I think it's just funny.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe for people listening that don't know, what is brown folks fishing, or like where's it based out of?
So I would say because Tracy lives in the Pacific Northwest, I would say it's based out of there. Most of our we're not like brand ambassadors, but most of the ambassadors who help do the planning and organize events and reach out to companies and kind of do the inside work they're in California, Oregon, or Washington. And so they're kind of on that Pacific coast. And it's a place for people who feel comfortable to come share space that includes women, people of color, anyone who wants to get into fly fishing, into fishing, and not just fly fishing, into fishing in general. And then we also, do our part to hold companies accountable when they're doing token stuff or when they ask, how can we be more inclusive? How can we represent more? And we're saying, put people on the board who aren't, old white guys, show that, there's more people out here than, Brian, who was in a fraternity with a backwards hat.
Yeah. Nobody wants to see
music,
nobody wants to see Brian anyway, man. Get Brian. Fucking Brian.
So and that's pretty much is. And we have a website with a bunch of pledges, and we're going to be coming out with a mentorship program soon. So it's a lot of hands-on and just making space because we didn't have the space growing up, just like Yoma said, like we didn't have the space growing up, so we're just trying to make that space and open doors so that people of future generations and I don't think, and I can probably say I don't think anyone in that group gives a shit about becoming famous for this, or none of us take like public recognition, so we always I'm very proud to be a part of that family. So
cool.
It's wicked. How's the response been to brown folks fishing? Like,
amazing. There's I've definitely been joking about this recently, but the people who are cool with us and dope with BFF is like, it's a very small circle. So I mean, within the industry, like if you get more into it, you kind of recognize there's connections. This person knows that company does this with that. And so with BFF, it's like if you mess with BFF, like we know like this company is good, this person is dope, like we can trust them, they have good intentions. And so it kind of becomes like a pretty good spider web. So for the most part, people are open and like what's wrong with having more people of color in the water? Like so what? And I love that kind of mindset of like, what's wrong with having more people on the water? But then we kind of come in and say, well, here's why this is happening. And here's what we can do to fix it for the future. So
that's awesome.
Of course we've been featured on a bunch of different articles and big Instagram pages, and of course there's those people that's like, why can't we just fish, or why do you have to make it about race? And most of the time I'm not going to say them, but most of the time I go on and I just comment something snarky or something goofy because I'm like, whatever. Like one time Orvis posted something about us, about BFF, and this guy was like, Orvis, I'm never using your products again. I'm gonna go to Walmart and buy rods. And I was like, well, can I get all your Orvis stuff? Because that seems like a waste if you're not going to use it. So there's just people like that, but
that's why you do it though, right? Because those people, in a way, I feel like that's a great reason to keep going, right?
Yeah, and some of the stuff I've heard and stuff that has been said to me on and off the water, like the stuff like that doesn't affect me because it's like, you're a guy complaining on Instagram, but like I've heard all the excuses, I've heard all the bullshit. So it's just keep our head down and make fun of those people when we can and just keep doing what we're doing. We're just trying to help people.
100%.
How do you do your outreach, I guess? Like if you're in I guess how do you get connected with people who want to learn how to fish, or what kind of events can you throw, especially now, right?
Yeah, so before COVID, we were planning like all these fall events, kind of into summer events where, you know, hey, if you live in Denver, Eeland's hosting a casting clinic this
cool.
Sunday or whatever, or you know, we're gonna be. I know in Oregon they've done like even with the pandemic, they've done like casting classes where people just come out and they can just learn how to cast a fly rod. So that's been the majority of it. It's just giving people the opportunity to come out and fly fish, and I do that kind of on a personal level with people here in Denver. So we'll post from the BFF account or my account and just say like, does anyone want to learn how to fish this Saturday, or anyone need anything? And recently we've been getting a bunch of gear donated to myself and BFF, and just trying to provide people who are starting fishing to get into it. So if we can give you a rod and a reel with a line on it, I mean, all you need now is, you know, a leader and a few flies just to go out and practice or cast. So if I think that's what the majority of my focus is going to be until everything goes back to normal, is just providing people with the tangible resources to get on the water. So
yeah, that's great. And did BFF start like what recently? Is it like a recent project, or is it been going
I
on?
would say in 2015, 2016.
Okay, rad.
Maybe, or maybe even 2017.
Yeah.
So, because there was a span where, of like maybe a year or two where I was doing fishy stuff and I had not heard of them, or I was thinking about starting my own thing, and then I bumped with them. So, yeah, I want to say 2016, 17, maybe.
Right on. That's sweet. I mean, it's great. I love to see that kind of stuff happening, and yeah. I mean, hopefully when COVID's gone, you guys can pick up the events again. I mean, I'm sure you will.
Yeah.
Who knows when that will be?
I really enjoy teaching people to fish and
that's fun.
Yeah, it is fun. It is fun. Yeah.
Especially people that are new to it. And
did my first guiding. Sorry, Mitch, go ahead.
No, yeah. In Temagami, you went Yelma was guiding in Temagami, middle of Ontario.
Yeah. For 5 days with Aldo. Aldo's guided a bunch. This was like my first official guiding. I mean, we guided once before on the.
Yeah, you've been hosting trips, but you know,
hosted a few, but like this was like, you know, I'm there.
Yeah,
yeah.
It was fun. It's always fun to, like, you know, especially when we're fishing and there's like it's really hard fishing, and then one of the guys catches something and it's just like, holy shit.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Even like you mentioned, you know, the way you got into fly tying, like when we would do like these intro nights at breweries, and we wanted people who'd never fished before, like never even thought about fly fishing, like just people who would just regulars of the brewery, basically, is what we wanted. For that reason, to just get people in, like, oh, I've never thought of this before.
It opens up like a whole new world. And I love taking people fishing, and
that's what's cool about fly fishing. We're talking about what's cool about fly fishing. That's what's cool. It's like
having someone who's never caught a fish catch a fish on a fly rod, and they're losing their mind. I'm losing my mind. I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever. And it may be a big fish, it may not be a big fish, but I'm like, look how pretty that fish is. Like you did that. So
it's cool.
I work for an outdoor education program called Lincoln Hill Cares, and we run a bunch of different like classes or kind of sessions, and one of the sessions I teach is the fly fishing, and it's like the greatest thing to see, like a kid, like I'm like, when that bobber goes down, you run backwards. Like you just take off backwards. And they always take off running, and we make them yell fish on, and
that's awesome.
Then have them wet their hands, and they're like, can I touch them? I'm like, yeah, you just gotta wet your hands first. And they touch the fish, and then they're like squeezing it and like looking at it, they're like, wow, like I've never. And I'm like, yeah, that's dope every time. And I'm like, this is every day. I'm like, this is the best thing ever. And it just gets better. So
how did you get involved with the wildlife education? Did you just how did you start doing that?
Yeah, so I think my life has been it's been all over the place, but I think my goals and kind of where I'm hopefully headed has all been pretty similar. So with the wildlife stuff, and with like being an advocate for new anglers, people of color on the water, I've always had a desire to teach about nature and wildlife and the outdoors and stuff, especially when I became a wildlife biologist. And so just working with different volunteer groups, and then got into a few positions that where I was lucky enough to teach about bears and wildlife and river ecosystems and insects and archery and just kind of all these outdoor things. So, which aligned perfectly with teaching people how to fish and sort of the public speaking stuff. So, just out of pure passion and volunteering and getting a few jobs. So,
right on. That's sweet, man.
Yeah,
I love it.
Great.
Yilma, before we get to Factor Fishy, because I know that's coming up, I just want to talk a little bit about fishing in New Zealand and South Africa. Where did you fish in South Africa?
Because these guys did.
Yes.
These guys did South Africa.
Yeah, Yilma and I fished
these
it.
two.
Was it last year? It was last year.
It was the spring of last year. Yeah.
We're in I can't pronounce the Dutch name.
I can't pronounce anything.
Well, you were
either.
north of Cape Town.
Yeah.
That much we know.
Yeah.
So the same thing. So I just reached out to the guy on Instagram. Well, I just posted on my Instagram and I was like, hey, I'm going to South Africa. It was for my mom's 50th birthday.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, I'm going to South Africa for like 2 weeks. And like, if anyone wants to take me fishing, like, let me know.
Yeah.
And this guy reached out, and shout out to the guy who runs it and owns it, and the magazine is called The Mission Fly Fishing.
Yeah.
He reached out and was like, hey man, I'll take you. And I was like,
Wicked.
dope.
That's wicked.
So we like planned it, and like my family was like planning trips, and I was like, yeah, I don't care nothing about that. I just need like a day, one of these days to be free. And they're like, yeah, you do what you want. So I got there, and we were like messaging, and they came and picked me up early one morning, and we went along this like, it wasn't like such a big river, but it was a smaller river with the creek. And he was just talking to me about like the history of, it was like north of Cape Town, the history of Cape Town, and like we saw these like religious groups like praying and like doing morning worship alongside the river. So he was like telling me about that and the mountains and scenery. And then we went out and just caught like little rainbow trout that were just like this big. And that was like our trip. And I was like, this is like,
so cool, man.
I couldn't describe to him how much I was, one, appreciative and two, excited just to have that opportunity. So that was my, and that was only for a day. And I love it. And everyone's like, did you get offshore? Like, were you able to go to the flats and stuff and fish? And I was like, not really, just because of the time stuff, but I would love to go back and just explore and learn more.
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Eerily similar.
Very similar. I wonder if it was the same river, Mitch. It was,
maybe.
The area was like Turquoise. I don't know. Anyways, but it was the setting was a huge mountain, and it was a very long river. And with, it was creek-like. It wasn't a very wide river. It was just a very, freestone river. And it was just a bunch of rainbows that we were catching the whole.
That's
and
beautiful.
it was one of my best trips. And so, and I think I was so appreciative of that time. Like it was mind blowing to me. And to your point, the yellowfin would have been good on the coast.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. And did you like? So I learned this, that you had to like fish different beats.
Yeah.
Like each, because it's like it's not private, but you have to be like part of the club.
Yeah.
Like fish
you have
a
to pay
beat,
the beats or whatever.
which was
our guide.
So that was cool to learn about, kind of like that.
Totally, man. It was like, but it was beautiful water. Like there was a lot of fish in there, and it was good to see like I think the reason that there's such good fishing is because of the beats and the way they, practice conservation there and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it was super cool. It was like, we fly fish the mountains, and then like the next day, Yelma's like, he was like, yeah, I'm glad you liked the mountains, man, because like the other thing was like offshore fishing the ocean and stuff. I was like, what? We could have fished the ocean. He's like, yeah. I'm like,
yeah.
He's like,
I didn't even think about that. Also, I was like,
yeah, I know. I didn't either.
Like, there's great white sharks.
I know, it's crazy. That's what I was thinking, and he's like, I just know you love rainbow trout, so I picked that. I was like, that's cool, man. It was great. Like, don't get me wrong, but going back and fishing the ocean would be wild.
Yeah, next time you gotta make an executive decision and be like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to
the craziest thing we can do, which would be the ocean. And
I remember we're obviously all in a group chat, and these guys were like, Aldo, work because they were there for work. Like they were like, we got a day off and we're going fishing. And I was like, what are you doing? And they're like, rainbows. And I was like,
what?
Yeah.
In South Africa?
I was like, okay, great.
You mean like stocked rainbows? Like stocked rainbows in a pond?
Yeah. I know. I didn't even know that.
I just didn't even know it was I think, sorry, I'm not making fun of you guys going for rainbows. Well, first of all, I didn't even know there were rainbow trout.
Same.
Yeah, I mean,
you know, I knew there's trout somewhere in Africa. I just, because, you know, whatever, they were brought over. But I didn't know they were that, you know,
I didn't know there was that.
They were that close to Cape Town. So that's why I was also surprised.
Yeah. I mean, I figured that all rivers in Africa had like, you know, like some sort of killer fish.
Tiger fish.
Well, you were fishing. Yeah. That you had to like, you know, have like, you know, wire bite line and leaders, but it was be like, oh yeah, there's
dry fly fishing for rainbows in the mountains. I was like, okay,
it was rainbow,
and it was so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you did. I love that we can talk about that because I think it's like one of those experiences not a lot of people have done because it's like, oh, fly fishing with rainbow trout, you don't go South Africa, right? So that's cool.
Yeah, and then like with the beats and stuff, you come back to you know, at least here in Denver, and everyone's like public lands, but then it's like in some places around the world, like not everyone even has like you have to be in a club to fish certain waters and stuff. So it's just I love learning about stuff like that in other places.
Yeah, and like how other people do stuff. Because I know like I think Scotland's like that too. They have a beat system in England. I think they do some of that. But it's not like that in Denver. It's not in Colorado. It's not like that at all.
No, it's a fucking free for all. It's a mess.
Yeah. It's just fish wherever you want. So. As long as you have a license, you're good to go, kind of thing.
Yeah. If you have a license, you can go. I mean, as long as it's not private land, which there's still some discrepancies, but as long as it's not private land, have at her.
Yeah. That's interesting. I know up here's like that too, so it's interesting. Like beats, maybe that's the way of the future. I don't know.
There's definitely an argument for it because like when I go to the river, especially now, Eeland, like with steelhead season, like there's guys in the river straight up with baseball bats, like bashing fish and taking them home.
Yeah,
and I'm like, while they're spawning, and I'm like, you know, maybe the private water beats isn't a bad idea. You know, like you know, on the one hand, you're like, oh, you don't want to lose public access for sure, but then on the other hand, it's like, well, what are we doing with it anyway? Yeah,
for the long-term survival of the fish and the ecosystem, like something has to be done, definitely. So
totally. And if they're not going to enforce, like if let's say Ministry of Natural Resources isn't going to enforce it, then maybe we do have to, you know, buy rivers and man, if I like won $1 billion more, I'd start snapping up rivers and like
I would leave them sort of public, but
sort of public, but maybe hire a small like army.
Some small militia
to enforce fishing.
Yeah, and like you can go and fish there, but if you do anything that I don't personally like,
exactly. That sounds like a good future.
You're losing your cast in hand. Yeah. So
love it.
They took my guns.
So
that's right. Yeah. And you fished in New Zealand too, eh? You went and did a trip down there.
Yeah, I spent 2 weeks with a friend who is deployed now, but I spent 2 weeks on the South Island.
Nice.
We rented a van, bought food for our van that we could survive on, and we just drove around the South Island and bummed it. Like I think we never used a public like an inside bathroom. We went into one town while we were there one night to get a burger.
Nice.
But we just drove around the South Island. We would fish during the day. And then whoever was at least tired, we would find a spot on the map in this book, and we would drive to that general area.
Yeah.
And then we would wake up. Whoever didn't drove, they got to sleep in a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And then whoever didn't drove got to, you know, go and fish, and then the person would sleep in, and then we would just alternate like that, and we just drove around the South Island.
Oh man.
And the first 3 days we didn't catch shit. So my friend was like, we should get a guide. And I was like, and we kind of thought about it, and we were like, oh, the price of a guide. Like, I mean, I guess we could do it, but then like, I mean, once again, like I'm very competitive and my friends are also competitive. So we were like, we can just figure it out. And we fished Colorado's tailwaters. And so like I mean, it's like a common phrase, and it's not 100% true, but it's like a common phrase. Like if you can catch a picky fish in a tailwater here in Colorado, like a good sized picky fish, then you can catch a fish anywhere because they get fished to 365 days a year with flies from, this size to size 42s or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, and we're decent anglers. And so we were like, we don't need a guide. And those first 3 days, we didn't see a fish. We didn't smell a fish. We didn't see any. We saw nothing. And we were like, well, this trip is going to suck. Like if we just flew 18 hours to sightsee.
Yeah.
And this is going to suck. But day number 4, there was a chrome that we were fishing this river, and it's like a glacier that like kind of like went around this corner and kind of fed into the ocean.
Yeah.
And we were like swinging flies, just hoping like maybe something would come out of the ocean and maybe eating something. But the first fish we caught was like this little, like the color of it was chrome, but I'm pretty sure it was just a rainbow trout, but it was like shiny chrome. And it was like this big, and it eating a sex dungeon.
Yep.
And we were like, all right, well, that's a good thing. And then we finally went through our book of rivers, and a lot of the rivers in the time of year we went have like glacial silt that'll melt off, and all the rocks and debris in the glacier like run into the river, and so none of the fish are there because they can't breathe. And then we're like, oh, okay. And so then we just drove around, found some more rivers, and then just had absolute fun. Yeah.
That's wicked.
Stumbled onto some spots that I don't know if people had accessed them or fished them, but it was like some of the greatest days fishing in terms of quality of fish and quantity of fish.
Yeah.
So
overall, good trip.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this, New Zealand is the worst place in the world. Don't ever go.
Oh man.
Yeah, don't go. But it's I always tell people it's one of the prettiest places I've ever been. We saw stuff that was in like we tried to take pictures of stuff, but at the end of the trip we were like, there's no point. Like you can't describe how pretty it was to see like a huge mountain and then like a meadow and then like this like stream coming out of nowhere, and there's pretty fish in it, and the birds were unbelievable, and it was so much. And there are a lot of 6-7 pound browns and rainbows, so it was a fun trip.
Yeah, that's rad. That's a big fish, man.
It was fun.
Is it time for some factor fishing, Yoma?
Yeah.
That time of the show. So Yoma's got a factor fishy segment on the show where he reads 3 fishing stories, and we have to tell if they're real or he's made them up. And he's gotten really good at making them up. When it started, it was very easy because he started writing these stories, and we could tell. But he's killing it now. He's killing it. So we'll see.
You can tell when it was in his voice.
Yeah.
I haven't done this in a while, but
factor fishy. Do
I do like a?
Yeah. Give her, man.
Factor fishy with me, Yilma. I will be your host for this segment. So the first one, it's this guy moments before his wife. Basically, he was getting married.
Well, wait a minute. You always give them titles, no?
Yeah, what's the title of this one?
What's the title of this one?
This has been such a long time. I haven't even done that.
Your titles are the best part. They're so hilarious.
Yeah. Your titles are so good, man. Are you going to make your titles up right now off the top of your head?
Yeah, I think
okay.
So. This one. Okay, so for the first one, this is called.
It's going to be good.
Might have to get
the engagement. This one's called The Engagement. Okay.
The Engagement.
So,
Okay.
So I just saw this on Instagram, and I needed to say it because I thought it was hilarious. This guy in a full-on suit, this gentleman in a full-on suit, full-on tuxedo, on his way to get married. He's getting their wedding is taking place on a dock close to the water. So he decides to throw his rod in just before his wife comes up the aisle, just before everybody starts to sit down, 15 minutes before the actual ceremony is taking place. And he throws in his rod. He starts reeling in, and a 35-inch Northern pike crushes his Rapala. He then picks it up and shows everybody and shows his groomsmen and then puts it back. And I thought that was a wicked foreshadow for things to come in his married life. Factor fishy.
Jeez, that's a wild story.
Well, I'm gonna say because you said I saw this thing on Instagram that it's fact and not fishing.
that could be being me being like.
I know, but I'm just that's my reasoning.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go fact.
I gotta go fact also. I would go fact.
Yeah, that sounds pretty real. I'm going fact.
Okay, it's fact.
Right on.
Nice.
Anyway.
Remember we said he was getting good at them?
So number 2. I'm calling this one.
Wait, is that couple still together?
I don't know.
It's true. It's a good question.
Yeah, I should DM them. Like, you guys still together?
Did he ruin his suit?
There was some slime on the side I saw, but
Oh
man, that can't be good. Jeez.
Number 2, calling this one 6 feet down, or 8 feet down.
8 feet down. Okay.
8 feet down.
Okay.
So and I read this on the Winnipeg in I think the Winnipeg Chronicle or something. So this lady, she was fishing off the dock again, but she hooked into something. She obviously didn't know what she hooked into, and a rod fell in. So she decided, she was this lifeguard, she decided to like go after a rod and see if she can find it, because she didn't actually know if there was a fish or not. She dove in. 8 feet down, she saw her rod and her reel. She picked it up, started swimming back, and she felt the tug. And the fish was still on the end of the line. And it ended up being a very huge largemouth bass. Fact or fishy?
Did you say the Winnipeg Chronicles? That sounds made up. Is that real?
Well, it could be Winnipeg. I can't remember the actual.
The Winnipeg Chronicles. Yeah, that does sound made up, actually. Thank you, Eeland. I wasn't even thinking about that.
I would like the newspaper in Winnipeg to be called the Winnipeg Chronicle.
Totally.
I can't remember exactly the publication, but
I'll go fact.
Yeah, I'm gonna go fact with this one. I'm going fact again. Yeah.
I'll go fishy.
Oh.
Eeland, you win. It's fishy.
Oh man, you made that one up.
2 for 2, Eeland. So there isn't a Winnipeg Chronicles.
Yeah, good instincts, Eeland. I think you cracked that one wide open there. Winnipeg Chronicles, nice.
Third one.
Yeah.
Third fact or fishy.
Okay.
And I'm calling this Ivy League.
Okay, all right. Okay.
So apparently this guy.
These all sound like Netflix documentaries.
Yeah.
Or like Netflix shows.
Totally do.
Did you check out Ivy League? No, but 6 feet down is great.
I love the engagement.
Yeah. All right. Apparently, so this guy in one of the southern states caught a bass, but inside this bass was another bass, and inside this smaller bass was a class ring.
Okay.
The guy took the class ring. There was a name on the inside of the class ring, and he actually found the dude in the town that he thought would be still in the town, and delivered the ring to the guy. Fact or fishy?
What?
Damn. This might be wild.
I don't know, man. Do you know what? I think because you said there was a bass in a bass and the ring was in that bass, like Russian doll bass style.
It's a Russian doll bass.
You know, like that.
Starga doll or whatever they're called.
I feel like that's a level of detail that you wouldn't have gone to the trouble of. I think you would just say, "Oh, a bass swallowed a ring." So I'm going to say it's fact because of the bass in the bass detail. And I hope I'm wrong.
I can be detailed.
Like,
I just don't believe that he found the guy. Like, maybe he found the ring, but you'd find the guy.
Yeah, I don't know how you would do that. It's true.
I'm gonna go fact, but I'll leave my explanation till after.
Okay.
I'm gonna go.
Fact or fishy?
I'll go fact.
You're going fact. All those fact. You're fact. Mitch, you're what? Fishy?
I think I said fishy. Yeah. No, wait, no. Yeah.
You said.
I said
Mitch, you
fact.
said fact.
I said fact.
Yeah,
I said
yeah.
fact. Yeah, I said fact.
3 facts. Wow, you guys are right. This is actually off a
Right on.
I found it on a forum, actually, a fishing story forum, and apparently it's absolutely true.
So the guy found the guy?
Yeah.
Jeez.
I'm saying fact for 2 reasons. One, I'm pretty sure you used this story once already. Two,
That sounds familiar.
I'm pretty sure this was a factor fishing, but also I saw it on CBC News. I saw it on the news.
Oh, nice. Oh, shit.
I think there's also potentially we saw the same news story together on our last trip.
Yeah.
But
Amazing.
but that's cool that he actually found the person.
How did he find the guy?
How did he find him?
There was a name. All it says is that there was a name on the inside, and I guess he found the name in the phone book and called the guy. I guess.
I mean, it makes sense. You know the school that the ring is from.
And the guy's like, what carat gold is the ring? Yeah, that's my ring, man. 100%.
It's like,
Is there a diamond on it? Oh yeah, that's definitely mine. That's definitely mine.
Yeah. Well, that's cool.
yeah.
Well, good factor fishy, Yoma.
Yeah, they're pretty decent. I was gonna do the muskie story. We had a muskie incident up in Winnipeg actually, but these guys know about it, so it wouldn't be fair. Where this muskie pulled a lady under the water. She's alive and well. It's fine, but it's pretty crazy. I was gonna use that.
How big was the muskie?
I don't know. It didn't say in the article.
It's been huge, but the bite mark on her leg was like she was hospitalized.
It was like a shark attack.
It looked like a shark attack.
Do you guys fish for muskie and pike a lot?
Pike, yes.
yeah.
Muskie,
Not as much.
So.
not as much. Yeah.
That's one of the fish that I've targeted, and I've caught like some smaller ones, but that's one of the fish that scares the fuck out of me. Like,
yeah.
like when I'm fishing for them, I'm scared. If I get one, I'm scared. When I'm taking the hook out of his mouth, I'm scared. And I'm like, whenever I'm putting them back in water, I'm like, please don't turn around.
They're monsters,
and kill
man.
me.
They're
and
monsters.
even though they're like this big, I'm like,
Still.
please.
Yeah.
Muskie especially, they're just so they can
Feisty.
get so huge. I'm not saying pike can't, but there's just something on muskie. They just got so fat.
Teeth on
Yeah,
it,
it's
man.
like
Yeah.
it's funny. Well, because our guide for muskie the last time we went fishing, we were fishing in like a place where there's cottages and stuff, and he's like, "Man, these people swim in this lake. I'm not swimming in this lake." And this is our guide saying this.
Wow.
Yeah, I would. That's the fish. Even like a bigger pike or any muskie, but I would love to get into that. But I'm just emotionally, I don't think I can handle it right now in my life. So
Yeah, they're huge, man. They're huge. 100%. I know. I love that. Well, it was a good factor fishy, Yoma.
Yeah, thanks, man.
And now
Mitchie's Fishies.
Yeah, Mitchie's Fishies 5. Like this is that segment I was telling you about where we ask the same 5 questions every guest, and they're just more fishing questions, but there's just 5 of them at the end, and we kind of wrap up the show this way. So I'm gonna ask you them now, and take your time answering them. It's not like a buzzer beater thing or anything like that.
all right.
Yeah. Anything you want to take all the time you need. This first one is what is your favorite fish and why?
My favorite fish is probably it was GTs. I would love to go chase
Oh man, yeah.
GTs, but then I took a trip to Idaho and Montana recently and caught some cutties that were just unbelievable fish. So I guess that I could reach probably Snake River cutties that I dream on going to trip of would be GTs.
Oh, great. I love that answer. I love the 2 parts to that because GTs are amazing and cutties from that area sound amazing. I've never fished them. What's special about them?
Well, about what, GTs?
No, about the cutties.
Oh,
GTs eat flip-flop flies. We know all about the GTs.
No, I mean, first of all, there's so many different species of cutties from like middle of the US all the way to the coast. There's different subspecies. Even in Colorado, we have like, when they're pure, like when they're actually what they are, that we have 4 different strains of cutthroat.
Yeah.
So, and then getting out to Montana and Idaho, they're like the cutthroat I'm used to catching are really, really red bellies and kind of have certain looks on them. And these Snake River cutties, there's some like they look like there was like an attention to detail for like everything, all their little spots, and I love their teeth, and they always look like they have an attitude. So that was my recent. It definitely changed, but that's probably my favorite fish I can get over and catch.
Nice, right on. That's a great answer. Love it. The second one, Mitch's Fishies 5, is if you could fish anywhere in the world right now, assuming it's the best time to go there and fish there, where would you go and why would you go there?
Either going to get some GTs or going tarpon fishing. I know nice. I haven't had a chance to, and I know I haven't really, I feel like tarpon fishing is much more tight-lipped than big fish in a small creek. So, and I'm not trying to like pick people's brains. I would love to go out and do my own work, but I would love to go to like Christmas Island, or the Seychelles, or even go get golden dorado. Go into the jungle and get golden dorado.
That's so cool.
I think either of those places to get. I just want to fish that once again just like scares me, that I'm like it's gonna take this rod out of my hand. And I've seen so many. I mean, with the fly fishing films, it's always like badass music while they're stripping, and then the huge set, and then the fight, and then but I would love to experience like a fish exhausting me, like a fish like trying to break my rod. So
oh man, I know those giant like those huge tarpon that people are catching. It's like, oh my god, can't imagine, man.
I can't either.
Beautiful trip though. Love that. Number 3 is, what is your best or favorite, or one of your favorite fishing memories?
My favorite fishing memories, there's a species of cutthroat here in Colorado called the greenback cutthroat trout, and they thought they were extinct. And then there was like a small population found in Rocky Mountain National Park here in Colorado. And then they found another population that was more identical to the old one, and they found more and more. And I was like learning about this. And I had worked as a forest technician, and I was doing like trail maintenance and stuff up in I almost said the location, up in a place here in Colorado.
Careful.
This really, really old guy who worked at our base camp, or who was like the housekeeper at our base camp, was like, I used to go up there and fish for these fish, when I was younger, and they would be huge, and there would be, hundreds of them in a really, really small pond. And, no one goes up there anymore. And so I had like 2 days off between our stints, and I like took a trip up with my friend, and we went up there, and we had fish. Like there were like a series of lakes. I was like, this was like number 1, this was like number 2, and it got like higher and higher. And so we started at the bottom lake, and we're catching brookies. And when we started the second lake, caught a few less brookies, caught the third lake, nothing. And then we got up to the fourth lake, and like as the sun's setting like over like the horizon, and we're like fishing, and we're like, man, it's just an old guy. And then we're like fishing, and we like move around to the other side, and we're fishing. And all of a sudden there was like a maybe half hour, 45-minute window where every time we put this leech in the water, this fly in the water, there was a fish. And we spent like the last half an hour just catching these gorgeous greenbacks, and they were healthy, and they were full, and they were colorful. And we didn't take any of the fish out of the water, so we would net them, and then we would like freaking giggle at each other like little girls, and then we would look at it, and then just like lift it up, or like move the net so it could like swim away, because we were like afraid of killing a population. So that was like one of the things where it was like a lot of people want fishy spots, but I think part of fishing, especially when you really get into it, is going out and just exploring and seeing what you can find. So that's my favorite fishing memory so far.
Sounds like a really good time. That sounds like a great day. I love that.
Pretty badass. It was fun.
Yeah. Okay, number 4 is kind of a broader question, but it's just, why do you fly fish? What do you get out of fly fishing? Why do you do it?
I mean, all the Instagram quotes people post, it's relaxing. It's it's being out in nature. It's simple. I mean, I know it can be tricky or difficult to learn, but it's simple. It's kind of takes my mind off of things. When I'm working on jokes, when I'm working on the material, I'll go out and fish and just have my notebook with me and just write ideas, write thoughts, write stories, and sort of be engaged that way. So it's like it's a good little escape from all the shit that happens in the world. And then, yeah, so it's just, I think of it as an escape or another place to go be creative. So, yeah.
That's a great answer, man. I totally agree, 100%. Of course, all those cliches, we've heard those things 100,000 times, but it's nice to hear a different creative.
Just go on Instagram and put hashtag fly fishing and read someone's post.
Exactly.
Live, laugh, fly fish.
Yeah, live, laugh, fly fish.
Okay, number 5, Mitch's Fishies 5 is what fly pattern represents you best and why? If you were a fly, what would you be?
We're making a coffee table book.
With everybody.
With all the answers.
Dude, I had this kid growing up with. Sorry, this is a tangent. I had this kid growing up with who would pretend to be a mosquito.
Okay. Yeah, right on.
And I don't know why we were in elementary school, and he would buzz around people's ears and then try to kiss someone's neck, and that was if you got bit.
Oh man, it's a good way to make friends.
I don't know what happened to him, but I do remember Sean.
He's in jail now.
He probably is. He probably got canceled way before that was a thing.
Yeah, exactly.
He kissed the wrong person's neck, and now he's in jail.
Yeah. One time a lady licked my neck after a show. She was a 4-year-old woman. I got off stage and she licked my neck, and I was like,
Sean?
If I was a woman, this would be sexual assault, but all my friends thought it was funny. So
what did you do?
Yeah.
Just she walked up to you and just licked your neck?
Yeah, I was on stage and I was talking about sex and women and joking around and just being an idiot.
Yeah.
And there was a point where she tried to recite or edit one of my jokes on stage.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh yeah, you think you're fucking funny, huh?" And she laughed, and then I was like, "No worries, you'll come to me after the show." And then she came up to me after the show and licked my neck, and I wish that hadn't happened, but
that's so random.
What was the question? Oh, what fly
you were a fly. What would you be?
You're a fly. Yeah.
If I was a fly, do people usually pick their favorite?
People
usually have a favorite fly.
We're kind of all over. Sometimes
it's
people pick a favorite. Sometimes they pick a fly that they feel the qualities of this fly I feel a little bit similar to my personality to that, or a fly that they just have a special memory with, or something like that.
I could be a fly. Well, there's I have 3 or 4 flies that I keep with me constantly. Doesn't matter where I'm fishing, that I know 92% of the time always work.
Yeah.
It would have to be the peacock soft hackle.
Okay, right on. Nice. Why?
Yeah, not well, but also you can't go wrong with the all black. One of my favorite flies is the all black midge with the tungsten bead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I would probably say the soft hackle because this is gonna make me sound arrogant.
Oh no, don't worry.
It's I'm the greatest of all time.
Hey man,
I think the peacock soft. No, I think it's a really versatile fly that you can use in a bunch of different situations.
Yeah.
So you can dead drift it. You can, pop it. You can have it on the swing. Yeah, you can swing it and pick it up. You can dead drift it. You can. I've caught in panfish. I've caught in whitefish. I've caught in trout. I've caught in a lot of different species on this fly. So I think it's always something that, it's just no matter what situation you put it in. And I like to think I'm like that. I'm adaptable, and also I think it looks pretty gangly. And I'm a tall, lengthy man, so I think that. But yeah, I think peacock soft hackle would probably be.
I love that, man.
My fly I would use to describe myself. I think. I don't know
if anybody's said a soft hackle before.
That's the first time we've gotten that. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it's more of a fly, or even that material is more of an old school, because a lot of the old school streamers and web nymphs all had soft hackle, and now everything's much more synthetic and realist. But it's my favorite. And when I'm teaching kids, and if they're not catching fish, we have a little tub of the flies we are donated to us. But I'll go and reach inside my box and be like, "Here, put this on," and then. I'm like, don't tell anybody.
Love
keep that. That's between us, and you can keep that. So
that's cool. That's a great fly, man. I love that. And if you think of a different fly later on, and you're like laying in bed looking at your ceiling, and you're like, wait a second. Send us an email.
Well,
totally.
Probably wake up in the middle of the night like, fuck.
Cold sweat. Zebra midge.
How many people have said Klauserman?
We've gotten a couple Klausers, I think.
Not as many as people have said woolly bugger.
We got a lot of woolly buggers.
Oh
Yeah.
Like,
that's easy, right? That's the easy answer, right?
Yeah, it's great fly.
Yeah, it's a great fly. That's it for Mitch's Fishies 5. Eeland, man, this has been a blast chatting, man. It's been really cool getting to know you.
Yeah, thanks guys for having me. I've had a lot of fun. Usually because of COVID and everything, and I've been on a bunch of comedy shows and different stuff, and I usually hate Zoom, but this was fun. This was a lot more fun than anything I've done in a long time. So I appreciate it, guys.
Great. Well, great chat. I will say now's the time to shamelessly plug yourself and your whatever you're working on. So
BFF.
Where can people find you? Do you want people to find you? Hashtags, Instagrams, etc., etc.
Yeah, well, if you guys see me in public, like, don't bother me. I am a classic introverted, antisocial person. I know with my public speaking and stuff, I would much rather speak in front of 1,000 people than have a conversation with like 2 people randomly on the street about the weather or traffic or whatever it is they want to talk about. So if you see me on the street, just be like, "Oh, are you Eeland?" Dope. And I'll be like, "Oh, what's your name?" And I'll introduce myself, and then we could move our separate ways. But I really don't want to be. I like living in my bubble. But I do have a podcast with a good friend of mine, who's another comic here in Denver. He's a touring comic, but he's here stationed, and it's called Get Home Safe. So you guys can check out that podcast on wherever you find podcast. And then follow and support Brown Folks Fishing, as you know, and like the page, share it. If you have any questions, please message BFS, and we always message back and take care of people where we can. So, and that's questions about fishing or life or whatever. We love chatting with people. So Brown Folks Fishing, Get Home Safe podcast, and that's it. My own Instagram, Black Steve Irwin. You can follow that if you want. I don't care if you do, dope. But yeah, I appreciate all the love and support. So Brown Folks Fishing and Get Home Safe podcast.
Right on. We'll put those in the show notes too, links so people can find them. Just go to go to check out our website. You can find the links through the Podbean. But yeah, it's been awesome to get to know you today. And you'll be happy to know we're not influencers. We don't influence shit.
I just trash influencers, and you guys are like, actually,
no, we don't. We carry no influence at all.
Well, now that he's gone, we have a new promo code, and it's
20% off wool socks. It was great to talk, Eeland. It was really thanks for taking the time to chat with us, and
yes, thank you.
Thank you guys so much for having me. It was good chatting with you. Hopefully, we can meet in the future in person and. Maybe go to a comedy show together or go fish somewhere in the world would be dope. Hey, let's meet in South Africa next year.
Sounds good, man.
Let's meet in South Africa next year. It's on the books.
I love that.
That sounds good.
Yeah, that'd be.
You're gonna come over?
Well, yeah. I mean, like if I could have come on that trip that time, I would have. I was jealous.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah,
it's gonna be good.
Sweet.
Let's definitely get together down the road, man. But and try to hit the water. That'd be fun.
These guys have to see Colorado. You guys have to see Colorado.
Oh, please do. And I will take you guys to the places, to the spots.
Sweet. Right.
So
we won't tell anybody. We can promise you that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I fish with my gun. So
perfect.
No worries. It's just, I work with bears and mountain lions and stuff. But come out, see shows and come fish. I would love to have you guys. Meet you guys. So
right on.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Likewise.
Well, thanks, man.
All right.
Yeah,
nice
you guys have a great
night.
day.
Take care.
Absolutely, man.
Appreciate you guys.
Yeah, you too, man. See ya. Well, that was Eeland. What a nice guy that guy is. What a fantastic fella.
That was an awesome show. Great chat.
Yeah. It's cool to talk about Colorado fishing, and also it was great that we could talk to somebody about our trip to South Africa. That was fun to hear about.
I know
his experience. It was cool.
I loved it. Yeah, no, it was good. Very good show. Yeah, and also like to talk about, this is our first guest that kind of talked about sort of, BIPOC people getting into fishing and being comfortable fishing, which is really interesting and really good.
Yeah. I hope we did it justice. I mean, it's such a huge topic, obviously, and yeah, like you said, it is the first guest we've had on the show, but it was cool to kind of dig into it and talk about, from his perspective and, being in the U.S. fishing and BFF and the stuff they're doing. Yeah.
That sounds pretty cool. It's cool that, like, I guess that's, the good part of both social media is that you can, like, connect different cities, different communities, and like get inspired by that. It's like, oh, look what these people do. Maybe I can get involved,
100%, man. That's what I love about. That's what I was trying to get to with social stuff. I love that on Instagram.
Yeah.
Despite like, okay, sure, there's like this whole world of the stuff we're always like, social media is like, oh, people living their best lives, but you know what? Rock and roll. Like, hey, everybody's just doing their thing, and it's cool to be able to connect in that way and see. I mean, that's how we met. That's how we met Eeland. That's how we met.
That's how we met Chloe. That's how we met Matt. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it can lead to honest connections for sure.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But it was a fun show.
But yeah, to your point, Mitch, I think we did do it justice. I really do.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope people listening are take something away, and yeah, and I hope
maybe get involved with BFF.
Get involved with BFF. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or start something else in your own community, and yeah, 100%.
Make it part of your fly fishing club.
Yeah. No, that's good stuff. That was great, and thanks, Eeland, for coming on again. It was cool to get to chat. Love your page and your comedy. Seen some videos.
Be awesome to go see one of his sets one.
Yeah, it'd be
time.
Awesome, man. It'd be so.
It's
good.
so much fun.
Yeah, I love stand up. We didn't even talk about that. I'm a huge stand up fan, and we all love laughing. We're all big laughing fans.
We do laugh.
Yeah.
And I do love to laugh.
We've both done stand-up, too. We didn't even talk about that. We don't want to be like, hey, yeah, we've done stand-up, and Eeland's like, actually.
I said that.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
You guys talked about that. You guys have both done your little stand-up classes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm telling you, man.
Yeah, man.
Great set. And Mitch, that test set you sent me was pretty funny.
Which one?
Well, the joke I really liked was, I went to the doctor the other day for I had a lump on my testicles, and it turns out it was my penis.
Yeah, I had an erection. Yeah, that's what I started my whole set with.
That's what you started your set with?
Yeah.
I mean, hey man, you gotta start with a banger. I thought that was hilarious.
Everybody's like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing.
Yeah, everyone was like, oh, this is what we're in for the next 3 minutes.
Look at this guy. Yeah, no, it's great, man. It's
jokes.
You know what? It's cool to meet people like Eeland who are like, so their interests are so eclectic and different and like unique. Fly fishing. Then he's a wildlife biologist, and then he's like a stand-up comedian. And it's like that is such a cool combination of things. Very interesting guy. I love people like that.
One thing I meant to ask when I kind of blanked was, does he ever work fishing into his axe?
Oh yeah, true. Yeah, that's a good question. Damn it. Well, we promise the listeners at home we will get that answer to that question when we meet Eeland. Or when we go see his set. And everybody check out Eeland's sets too. He's got some posted on his Instagram channel, and you can watch his stand-up sets and all that jazz. But yeah, check the show notes as well for links to BFF and to Eeland and to all that stuff.
Well, this show's coming out November 1st.
Yeah, it's October.
So we'll be a month deep into Steelhead season. Mitch and I went last weekend with Ada's.
Twice.
And twice, which was great.
Yeah.
On the Canadian Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Mitch, you caught we caught the Grand Slam that day. Yeah. No steelhead, but like a 10-pound drum, a 5-pound catfish, and a huge smallie.
Yeah, big smallmouth. That's the biggest
all on the spay rods. A catfish on the spay rod.
Yeah, Joe caught his catfish. Well, he caught a bunch, and a big drum, like a 10-pound drum.
Huge drum.
Yeah, and then I got that bass, and that was the biggest bass I've caught on the Grand. It was a thick fish. I was like, oh wow, okay.
That fish was
beautiful smallmouth, man.
And it was like pissed off.
Did it hit like a steelhead?
Kinda. It actually, you know what? I kind of felt like a bass, but then I saw the colors. I was like, is this like a Chinook? Because we've caught Chinook there before in the past, Joe and I once. So I think sometimes they get scragglers in there, but yeah, it was a big bass. It was cool. It was a beautiful fish. Nice colors on it. It was fun.
Beautiful.
But you know what I'm looking forward to
it's
is
a nice way to spend the Thanksgiving day off.
Oh yeah, 100%, man, 100%. I'm looking forward to the cold weather steelheading because that day was better, but we went out the couple days before and it was like 25 degrees. It was like summer fishing. It was whack. I was like, this sucks. I want to be freezing cold, you know? Like that's what we're doing.
Probably why you got that bass.
Yeah, that's probably why I got that bass.
Probably definitely why you got that bass.
Anyway, we're gonna go out steelheading again soon when
next weekend.
Next weekend we could go out.
No, we're going with Tyler next weekend.
Oh, is next weekend the Tyler weekend?
Yeah, Flywater guiding, baby.
Look at that, man. I lose track of time so easily.
Yeah. And
so
then
easily.
the weekend after that's Halloween.
And I'm definitely gonna go steelhead on Halloween because Halloween's on a
Should
Saturday.
Should we go in costume?
Yeah.
You don't want to go with a Spider-Man mask on?
Okay, all right. You twisted my leg.
I had to go with the comic book character.
You got him.
Yeah.
I knew you wouldn't dress up as like Frankenstein, but like
he's locked in now.
Yeah.
Oh baby. Well, we're steelheading next week. Okay, cool. It's gonna be good.
Yeah, man.
Rock and roll, my friends.
We're on drift boats next week. That's fun.
That's
pretty
fun.
cool.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
So are we doing both days? Like, are we going to be fishing both days, or are we just going up for?
Yeah, we're fishing both days. Drifting both days.
Fishing both days. Drifting both days. Gonna last in the boats.
Can I use? Can I use somebody's setup?
Why?
Well, we're going to be using our setups.
Yeah. What am I going to use?
Oh, man.
I just got my one
Maybe.
rod.
Yeah, get that spay rod, baby.
Go get that spay rod, yo.
This is a great reason to get it.
Yeah.
We're going to get on some stretches that we can't normally get to.
Hey, swig with a big
Can you
spay rod.
spay cast?
Yeah, you can. You'll figure it out. We'll get you. You'll be casting.
You can roll cast, and that'll be the start, and we'll go from there.
You'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
Well, it's going to be fun next weekend, everybody. Everybody at home, thanks for listening to the show, and we hope that you enjoyed listening to Eeland. Check out the show notes again to see all those pages, and we hope everybody's doing well and enjoying their fishing time out there in the world. And that's it for me, Mitch. Aldo?
Thanks, everybody.
Yelma?
Thanks, everyone. Oh.
What?
Thanks, everyone.
What?
And, all right, thanks for listening. Take care.
You can find all of SoFly's content at sofly.ca. On Instagram, we're at the SoFly Crew. You can reach us at thesoflycrew@gmail.com with any questions, comments, or concerns. On Facebook, we're SoFly, and our podcast is available on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Spotify.